Hey everyone, and welcome to Victoria's Cantina. Today we're having a look at the Hasbro Star Wars The Black Series Toys R Us exclusive Imperial Hovertank Pilot 6-inch scale figure. Very excited to add this one to my collection. It came out back on Rogue Friday in late September. I never saw it locally, and thankfully ToysRUs.com got them in stock, and after a few attempts to secure it, I was able to get one. And here it is. As you can see from the packaging, it's the same 6-inch Black Series packaging we've been seeing, red and black theme. It's got the little metallic sticker on the bottom indicating it's a Toys R Us exclusive. You get a render of the Hovertank Pilot on the lower right, and you can see the figure quite prominently within the packaging. Side of the box gives you a peek inside and says Imperial Hovertank Pilot. Opposite side says the same thing, and there is no numerical designation since this is an exclusive figure. And at the back we get some information about the Imperial Hovertank Pilot. Imperial combat drivers operate the Empire's arsenal of armored repulsor vehicles. Combat drivers are lightly armored, relying instead on the thick skin of their vehicles to protect them in battle. And down here at the bottom, you get some warnings as Disney and Hasbro. And here at the top, a little peek inside. At the bottom, you get your SKU. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work on getting this unboxed. And when we come back, we'll take a closer look and see what this guy is like. All right, you guys, and here is the Hovertank Pilot out of the packaging. And, right off the bat, I just got to say that this looks really good. From a sculpting standpoint, it looks great, but from a paint standpoint, they did a very nice job weathering the paint and just making it look worn and realistic. And that's just fantastic because you don't really see that with Hasbro that often. Generally speaking, the troopers are pristine and very nice and clean. But it looks now like they're trying to move the 6-inch scale into the direction of adding weathering applications, which is great because that's what they used to do all the time in the 3 3/4 inch line back in the 2000s. From all angles, this looks really good. I'm actually quite surprised this is an exclusive figure given how awesome this figure looks. I'll go ahead and give you a close-up here of the helmet so that you can see how nice this is sculpted and all that really nice, rich paint detail on there. I mean, it could very easily just be a black and white trooper like we've seen time and time again, but they actually made the effort to add some weathering to it, and it's very expertly applied. Just look at that there. It looks very organic. It looks very natural. And they really did a heck of a job there. So I'm really pleased with what I'm seeing here. Hopefully going forward, they continue to do this with Black Series figures because that's what we want. We want more detail, more realism. And this kind of looks like a figure arts figure. It just looks incredible. And it's a very light application of weathering, especially here in the chest area and in the arms. And it just looks really good. It's subtle, but you can definitely notice it. And that's awesome. It's not blatant, and that's not what we want. We just want it to be subtle and realistic, and that's exactly what they did here. The armor itself looks really good. The arms kind of look like run-of-the-mill Stormtrooper armor, but this is definitely different here in the center section, as well as the back. Definitely different. The belt looks like a Stormtrooper belt, and interestingly, the thighs do not have any kind of armored covering on them. It's just basically like these grayish kind of pants that it's wearing. And that looks really good. They're textured very nicely, and they're not glossy. They're not overly glossy. There's a little bit of gloss to them, but it's not too bad. It's a little more matte, which you would expect to be the case. So that looks really nice. And then here at the shins, he does have armor down there. And again, it's very nicely sculpted and very nicely painted. I just really like that weathering that they added down here. The feet themselves are a slightly different color than the rest of the shin armor. It's very close, but to my eye, there is a very slight difference, and I think partly that can be due to the fact that they're just a little more clean looking than the shins are. Down here at the bottom, you do get peg holes. The bottom of the feet are kind of like a grayish beige sort of color, very dark color. And all in all, this is just really fantastic sculpt work, really fantastic paint. Now, in terms of articulation, you do get your ball joint here at the head. You can see the neck joint right there, so you can move it down a good little bit. You can move it up a little. You can turn to the side, of course. You can't really get much of a tilt to it. It's pretty slight tilt. You get ball hinging at both of the shoulders. Now, do take note, it is a little bit hindered because you see when I move it up, the shoulder hits the armor up there. And I don't want to press it all the way because it's going to damage the armor here on the shoulders. So if I go out to the front, I can get more movement. But again, it does kind of contact the armor right here at the back. So I don't really want to damage it. I presume that if you weren't afraid of damaging it, that you could move those arms all the way out. You get ball hinging at both of the elbows and works very nicely. You get hinging at both of the wrists, so you can swivel it side to side or just spin it around like that. The opposite hand actually goes up and down, and you can spin it too. Here at the torso, we get a ball joint. You get some decent movement with it. It's not the best, but it's probably certainly adequate for this figure. You got ball hinging at both of the hips. Now, do take note, it doesn't really do a good split at all. That's about as good as you're going to get, which is interesting because most of the trooper figures, you can get about a full split in most cases. So that's a little bit limited there. You can do a full 90 degrees forward, though, and I think that's probably more important. You get your swivels here at the upper thighs. You get double bends at both of the knees, and works pretty well. And then here at the ankles, you get hinging along with rocker swivels. So very nicely articulated figure. Some improvements could be made in order to improve the range of movement here at the shoulders and the hips. But by and large, I'm really happy with what they did here. They did a really good job articulating it, and it just looks so awesome. In terms of accessories, you do get your standard Imperial issue blaster. Now, this one is a little bit different from what we saw in the original trilogy. They did add a little bit of extra work to it, like this little protrusion right there, and it just looks slightly different overall. I mean, it definitely looks like a Stormtrooper blaster, but there are some slight differences there. And as far as the color, it's a very, very dark gray color. This is also the same one we got with Jyn Erso from the Kmart exclusive figure. And here's the comparison of the Hovertank Pilot along with the Imperial Death Trooper from Rogue One and also the Imperial Stormtrooper from the Black Series that we got a few years ago. And you can see that the Hovertank Pilot's a little bit shorter than the Death Trooper, though taller than the Imperial Stormtrooper. And it's interesting to see the evolution between the original Black Series Stormtrooper and then how these newer ones look, because the detail's a lot better on these newer ones. Even though that looks really good, this just looks so much better, especially the Hovertank Pilot with all that paint detail they gave him. And I especially like that despite the fact that the newer figures don't have the double bends at the elbows that the Stormtrooper had, they can hold their weapons so much better than he can. Hasbro just developed some very nice ball jointed elbows for both of these guys that enable them to hold the weapons in a very natural way. You just don't really see that here with the Stormtrooper, or even the First Order Stormtroopers we got with the Force Awakens figures last year. So I'm really glad to see them improving the elbow articulation. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so there you have it. This is the Hasbro Star Wars The Black Series, Toys R Us exclusive 6-inch Imperial Hovertank Pilot. Overall, I'm very pleased with this figure, and it's beyond that. I'm actually pretty impressed with it. With Hasbro 6-inch Black Series, they started off as really good figures, really high quality, lots of accessories, great paint detail, and then they kind of went downhill after that. And finally, a couple years later, we're seeing them improve in overall quality, and I'm really happy about that. This figure is solid through and through. Sometimes we see that the figures are kind of rubbery, especially with Hasbro Black Series and Marvel Legends figures. That's totally not the case here. It feels like a very durable, very solid figure. As I said, the aesthetics are awesome. It has a very nice sculpt to it. The armor looks incredible, but that paint detail is what really does it for me. It just looks so good, so natural, and Hasbro is to be commended in that respect. Articulation is good. Like I said, there could be some improvements made in the shoulder movement and the hip movement, but other than that, I don't have any problems with it. It works very well. If you're a fan of Trooper figures, or you're really looking forward to Star Wars Rogue One like I am, because I really am looking forward to it, then this is a must-have for your collection. Like I said earlier, I'm surprised this isn't in the main line and that this is an exclusive, because this is just a solid figure. Alright my friends, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Please do give us a like, subscribe, and share. It's because of your support that we're able to continue reviewing toys and collectibles, and for that I thank you. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and as always, I want to thank you for tuning in to Victoria's Cantina. Until next time, my friends, bye-bye.